movie, almost any movie these days. The myth of redemptive violence is alive and well in many of our movies. If you don't believe me, go look up how much of our national budget goes to weapons and to the military. If you don't believe me, look how many guns are bought and sold in this country, and how many politicians are bought and sold by the guns and weapons lobbies too. If you don't believe me, go to Columbine and Sandy Hook, the Pulse nightclub in Broward County, Florida, and too many other places to name. To violence in so many ways we bow down. Cardinal Peter Turkson of Ghana, who currently serves as the Vatican's prefect for the promotion of integral human development, recently said, "Today, sadly, we are still at this crossroad. We're tempted to respond to violence with violence. By attempting to do so, we shall never achieve what peacemakers actually seek. To say we must always use a nonviolent response to conflict is easy to say and difficult to put into action. The temptation to use violence is strong in a world of fear when people are desperate for safety and for security. But that is the nature of our world now," he said. You know, one of the things that doesn't make sense to me about the gun debate in this country is that many of the same conservative religious folks who are constantly, it seems to me, telling us how sinful and fallen we are, also seem to think that we can handle guns and nuclear weapons just fine. We're told that we don't know what to do with our own bodies and minds, but gosh, when it comes to handling assault weapons, we'll be fine. Then when people die in the streets of our cities, when women are terrorized in their homes, when children die in our schools, well, that's just because of those people, those crazies, those monsters. That's not us. As long as we fail to understand our vulnerability to the temptation of violence in a world of fear rather than faith, the killing will continue. We will keep on buying guns, funding massive military spending, and believing that violence is the key to solving the problems of the world rather than God's love as the key. As long as money and power and doing whatever the hell I want remain more important than serving God, loving my neighbors, and caring for those in need, we're not free. That's not freedom. It's life in bondage, constantly bowing down to the small gods of this world and to their money changers. In Tales of the Hasidim, Martin Buber reported that Rabbi Simcha Bunim used to say, "Everyone must have two pockets. In the right pocket are to be the words, 'For my sake was the world created.' And in the left, 'I am but dust and ashes.'" All too often, we forget that both are true. As I have said the last few weeks, our scriptures are clear that we are made good and in the very image of God. Scriptures could not be less clear about that. More clear, whichever way it should be. And yes, we are loved by God to the very core of our being, every one of us, every one. Yet, from the beginning, our scriptures are equally clear that we are easily tempted to turn away from God's life-giving ways, to take more than we need, to choose power over rather than relationship with, to fear loss and scarcity rather than to trust in the God of life and abundance, to worship the small gods of short-term satisfaction rather than the everlasting love at the center of all things. We are good and we are loved, but we are also fragile, limited, and vulnerable to the temptation to choose poorly, wrongly, and even very destructively. Those who think we can solve things by simply arming ourselves to the teeth fail to grasp our susceptibility to the temptation of violence. The young people in Florida are right. This is not about monsters among us. This is not about the brokenness. This is about the brokenness of humanity and the brokenness of our system to protect people, not only from others, honestly, but from our own worst tendencies. Like I said with the kids, all of us get angry. Most of us are wounded by life at some point, and many of us are troubled. We're only human after all. There's nothing wrong with anger, especially when it's in response to a righteous cause and properly channeled in service to love and justice and peace.